my Taco Bell and Chick-fil-A. Thriving. But this is like my first like ever sit down video, so I can't be like, welcome back to my channel, because like y'all don't know who I am. I'm Haley, Jordan Fit. My name's Haley Polk. So most of y'all are probably coming from my Instagram at Haley_Jordan_fit. So I just want to make a video because I've gotten a lot of people asking about my like fitness journey and my fitness story, like where it all came from and like how I got into like making my Instagram. So I decided I would make a video because this is quarantine and like this is what people do, right? I don't really know where to start. I didn't write any notes down or anything like that. So essentially I've always been into fitness, working out, but not in the traditional sense that like we look at it now. I was a soccer player starting at age 4 up until I was like 16. I want to say 16. And then I did volleyball, I did gymnastics, I did pretty much everything you can think of. I never played basketball though. So I did all sports pretty much, but mainly it was soccer and track. But the issue is I don't run. Like I'm only gonna run if someone's chasing me, you know, type of thing. So I did soccer, but I was a goalie, and then I did track, but I was a discus thrower. And I was actually really good at discus, and I was a really good goalie. I was being scouted for both sports from colleges, but unfortunately, my luck would have it is that it's just bad. So I had so many injuries that ended up just like always kind of taking over. So, I mean, I have now 3, but 2 from soccer and track. 1 happened 2 years ago. But I have 3 current chronic injuries that like I will never really be able to get rid of. So I broke my ankle. I broke the growth plate of my ankle my freshman year of high school during a soccer game for my varsity team. And then that just like never really healed right. And then I kept spraining it and rolling it, and it's just essentially filled with scar tissue like around my Achilles tendon. Like, so I would put a diagram up, but I don't know how to do that. But so essentially I have my Achilles tendon, and then, because that's the very back of your heel, and then you have like a little pocket of space behind the Achilles tendon. My space is completely filled with scar tissue. So that's just something I'm always gonna have to deal with. I have a really bad ankle. I lost 20 degrees range of motion on my right ankle that my left ankle has. So 10 degrees like tilting my ankle up and then 10 degrees pointing it, which that, like, you would think it's not that big of a deal, but when you're trying to squat, I got this. So my ankle will lock and I can't continue, which prevents me from getting depth, and also will essentially just, it makes you like change your form. Like once you hit that like level where your ankle won't move anymore, you keep going, but your form becomes bad, if that makes any sense. So I always had that going on. That started freshman year of high school, but also my freshman year of high school, because I was training so hard as a discus thrower, because I started discus in 7th grade. So I was training so hard as a discus thrower because my dad was a collegiate athlete. He threw the javelin. I think he threw a little bit of shot. He was never into discus, but discus was just my thing. Like I tried to do shot put, not really my thing. I couldn't even hit the 30 feet mark, but discus I was actually pretty good at, and it was like a raw talent thing. And then so I was in the weight room training, lifting. I was a power lifter from 7th grade on. And so one day my dad and I were at the gym doing our warm up. I was bench pressing, and it was honestly a warm up weight. Like it was the bar plus maybe 5s, like very, very warm up weight for me. And I'm at the top, and this shoulder just completely gives out and I lose the weight. I don't know if the issue was I hurt it, which caused like the pain that I have now from it giving out, or from me trying to catch the bar before it hit me. We've been struggling dealing with trying to figure out what I did in my shoulder. No one ever really figured it out. They kept trying to say I just like sprained it. No, I didn't sprain it. I've been diagnosed with shoulder impingement syndrome. I've been diagnosed with a bone disease. That's just been giving me trouble. I've always kind of had to work around my shoulder. So the issue was I have been obsessively lifting now, and we have injured her again because of the imbalance of my shoulder with strength. So I'm currently nursing a rotator cuff injury back to health. My angel's sitting over there. He's eyeing my Chick-fil-A. So I had this shoulder injury that like never really healed, but I still was training. I just wasn't using that shoulder. So essentially, kids, don't do this at home. No one do this. I wasn't able to push with this arm. So I still pushed with this arm because this is what I throw with. I'm a right-handed person, so I would throw. So I switched over from barbell bench to dumbbell bench. I would hold 5 pounds on this just to balance me, and I would press up to 60 pounds on this side. Can we talk about an imbalance that still hasn't healed from like middle school? I'm 22. I've been trying to even it out. It's still just like an issue that I think I'm probably gonna have forever, but we're working on it. And then, so I stopped playing soccer when I was 16, continued track, but then we had a huge issue with my ankle. I'm allergic to latex, and so that also means like liquid adhesive and tape. Because I explained I have a very weak ankle, I would always get my athletic trainer to tape my ankle before any track meet, just because when you are a discus thrower, you're spinning, and I was always terrified that my ankle would just give out while I was doing that. So I always had it taped just to have extra support. I would tape it and then I would put a brace on it. I don't know if it did anything, but it gave me peace of mind. So we always did that. But the issue is senior year, first meet of the season, he sprays my ankle with what I thought was a disinfecting spray. I don't know. It was actually liquid adhesive to make the tape last longer. And so that was on my ankle for 8 hours. I'm allergic to latex again. So take it off. I ended up having a horrendous allergic reaction, which turned into cellulitis because my ankle swelled so bad and turned into hives that it broke open, and then the sores got infected. I put it on my Instagram story. I'm so sorry to whoever had to watch that. But people asked about my skin condition, so that derived it all. The doctors told me that I was a day away from needing my leg amputated. It got to that level. The infection had almost reached the bone. And from that, I lost all my spots on TC's track team because my senior season ended up going away, essentially. I still came back, went to district, regionals, and state, and I actually medaled in state. V proud, I medaled in state 3 years in a row as a discus thrower, but I never won, and that just, it really got to me, I will say. So that's my sports background. I was always active, and I was kind of eating whatever I want, but I was so active with sports that I kind of like evened out. I was always maybe like a little bit on the bigger side, but I was never like overweight for my age. I just always had a little bit more fluff to me. I wasn't really toned. But as a soccer player and discus thrower, I have really big muscles on my legs, which they're still there. So I always ate really not great, but not like the worst thing. Like I wouldn't say I was really a binge eater, but I do remember when I was a kid, I would straight up like get tubs of icing from, you know, like Target or whatever, like in the baking aisle. And my grandfather loved baking, so we always kind of had them. This is the one that I love. So this is Z. Can you say hi? I would take the tub of icing, and I just remember like it tastes good. So I would just eat it spoonful until I made myself sick. And like, I have always had a very unhealthy relationship with food, I would say. I didn't grow up in the most, how do I put this nicely, loving, supportive household. My dad was my rock, my biggest supporter. My mom always kind of shamed me a little bit for my weight, and so did her mom. I don't know if that was like a generational thing. I will not do that to my kids because it destroyed me. I had zero self-confidence from day one. I remember my mom used to always tell me like, I'm never gonna get a boyfriend unless I lose weight. No one's gonna wanna eat around me because I eat so fast. It always made me demonize food from the very beginning. The issue was my dad, when I was 3, he had a seizure. So we figured out my dad had a brain tumor when I was 3. And that just, I think I grew up with knowing that death happens at a very young age, knowing that things aren't fair, even though we kind of live in a world where we think that everything should be deserved and you earn what you get. The 3-year-old in me like didn't deserve what I got. My dad ended up having a brain tumor, but it was in a very specific spot on his brain that it was like half of it was in his motor cortex of your brain. So like essentially what tells you to like speak and walk and move your arms. And so like all like his motor functions are found in like the motor cortex. And so since the tumor was like partially in that, if they completely removed the cancerous cells, he would have lost the ability to move the entire right side of his body. My dad was a software engineer. That's not something he could do. He needed to speak. He needed to do everything. I don't even know how to explain like how much my dad is my hero. With brain cancer, he has like 16, 18 approved US patents. He was this world-renowned speaker. Everyone in his field didn't know he was sick. And that's how he wanted it, because he didn't want people to look at him. So everyone, when they found out that he was ill, was shocked, because everything my dad accomplished, he did without people knowing what was going on behind the scenes. I grew up from a very young age with my dad being incredibly sick. With the tumor being in the spot that it was, they would just remove a portion and resect like half of it. I don't know if it was exactly half, but they resected a portion of his tumor every brain surgery, and he had, I think, 3 tumor resections. And then on the last one, shit hit the fan, and he ended up getting an infection from the surgery, which eroded into his skull. So they ended up having to go back in and remove the cap of skull that they had removed for the surgery. Because like you remove the cap and then you put it back. So they had to end up removing it because it got so infected. And so up until like forever, like after, from that moment on, my dad didn't have part of his skull. And so it was just like skin covering his brain. And that's actually like a really unsafe place to be, because our skull is protecting our brain. He didn't have that protection. Things started getting bad when the tumor started growing even more. He would do rounds of chemo, but he never wanted to do radiation. The issue is I hate her. I actually hate her. His neuro-oncologist in Dallas used me specifically to manipulate my dad into signing up for radiation. Because my dad was very stubborn and ended up saying essentially like, I'm coming up with my own treatment, because he was so smart that he researched everything himself, which I get, like you need to listen to your doctors, but my dad just never was that person that did that. His doctor in Dallas said, if you ever want a chance to see your daughter get married and have kids, you have to sign up for radiation or you will die. I think there's a way to say that. Say, hey, this is kind of the only option now, without using the phrase, if you ever want to see your daughter get married. It's very manipulative, and my dad signed up right that day. And actually, the radiation is what killed him. The radiation ended up pissing off the tumor essentially and just like lit it up. It grew so quickly and so fast, and there was not really a way around it. So from when he started radiation, my dad died 6 months later. This was my senior year of high school. So I was his full-time caregiver since my parents were divorced, and I lived with my dad. I took care of him. He would have seizures. He would fall out of bed. I would put him back up. I would take him to his doctor's appointments. I would go to the pharmacy for him. I would hand him his pills every morning and evening. I would make him food. I would go buy food. I did everything. It's just like what my life was. And I wouldn't trade those months for anything, because I was always close to my dad, but that's what made it close. I wouldn't trade any of that. Going back to the injury from discus, the district meet, which was my first meet back from my ankle injury, that was the day that we found out my dad was terminal. I remember every minute of the next 5 weeks in one day, very, very, very specifically. It's like a memory, it's a loop. Like it's a video that I can play in my head. That was my biggest issue with everything. So my dad died actually on May 26th, 3 days before I graduated high school, which was the hardest thing I've ever done, the hardest thing I will ever do. I don't know if any of y'all have watched The Fault in Our Stars, but I remember watching it a few years after my dad died. And there was the moment where she was in the hospital, wasn't able to breathe. She said it felt like she was drowning, and she said that it was a 9 out of 10. And all her doctors were saying she was so brave because she called a 10 a 9. And she said, that's not a 10. A 10 is the one moment that is the worst pain you will ever feel. You only reach 10 once. Everything else is just short of it. She was saving her 10. And so when I heard that, I realized like losing my dad the way I did was my 10 out of 10. I will never feel pain like that again. I was 17 when my dad died. He was supposed to watch me graduate high school 3 days later. He was supposed to watch me go to my dream school that him and I dreamed about every single day, was me attending TCU. And so I went to TCU and I made him proud, but he wasn't there to see it. I ended up graduating TCU back in this last December, and he wasn't there. Today I'm filming this the day that Gymshark hires me. I got offered a spot at Gymshark HQ in America this morning, and that's my first job, and it's my dream job, and my dad's not here. And so those are always just gonna be moments that I wish that he was able to see. After my dad died, I went into the deepest depression. Like, I'm not even exaggerating when I say nobody thought I was gonna get through that. There was a time where we thought my life was over. I could not get out of bed. I could not stop crying. I ate everything in sight because food was comforting, because from such a young age all the way back to when I was eating icing out of the tub, food made me feel good. And so I always had that feeling with food, that I always turn to it when I am upset or happy or anything. It makes me feel good. So in the 2 months that after my dad died, I gained about 50 pounds. I stopped working out. I stopped everything. I gave up. I was just kind of living. I wasn't even living. I was just kind of being. So I think that for me, I spent about 3 years just eating everything in sight without caring. And I was still gaining weight, and I did not give a shit, to be completely honest. Summer of 2017, I discovered Whitney Simmons' YouTube channel. If I didn't come across Whitney's YouTube channel in my suggested when I did, I genuinely can confidently say I don't think I would be alive today. It was that bad. I hated everything. I was at the darkest place of my entire life when I found Whitney. And through Whitney, I found Gymshark, and the community that I'm currently a part of, I would not have been possible without her. I ended up wanting to try again. Whitney made me want to live. I was living in Europe this past summer, and I got the opportunity to go to the Lift Manchester Gymshark pop-up shop. I'm so grateful for that moment, because it was in that day that I got to look Whitney Simmons in the eye and tell her she saved my life and thank her for everything she did without even realizing it. From meeting Whitney in Manchester when I did, that allowed for me to be in the Gymshark X Whitney Simmons campaign, which changed my life. It was something I never thought I was thin enough, beautiful enough, worth anything to be able to be in a multi-million-dollar worldwide campaign from the brand that meant the entire world to me. So I had my fitness Instagram already from the 2019 Gymshark 66, but I didn't really try with it. I just kind of posted it as an accountability thing. I started posting my daily gym fits as like, hey, look, I went to the gym this day, this is what I wore, but it was mainly like, I made it that day, be proud of me. I was looking for validation from everybody. So I started doing daily gym fits because a girl that I had followed, Michaela Anissa, started posting them, and I loved watching her videos. She was always so inspiring. I loved her channel. And when I say videos and channel, I mean Instagram posts and videos. I started doing it because she was doing it, and I was like, this is a really good way to hold myself accountable. And it's so crazy that like I'm like Instagram friends with Michaela now, because I started following her when she had 5,000 followers, and now she has over 300,000 followers, and that's just insane to me, because I was like one of her OG people, which is so cool. So I started posting on my fitness page as a way to show my journey. I never did it to tell anybody what they can or shouldn't do or any of that, because it just is what works for me. I fell back in love with weightlifting, and it genuinely, the gym saved my life. I miss the gym. Can everyone please stay home so I can go back to the gym, please and thanks. So I started posting, and it got so out of hand. Like I never thought that literally anyone would follow me. I'm so grateful and thankful, and it changed my life. So I'm really happy as of where I'm at now. I'm so happy to say that I've lost 40 pounds since the end of August 2019, today being April 2020. That's what it is. You know, is it just me, or is anyone else's days just meshing together? I don't even know what day it is. That's just where I'm at now, and I just kind of want to share like where I came from to where I am, because I don't even recognize myself. I think I lost some of the weight and that I wanted to lose, and I just found this confidence in myself that I just want to learn how to love myself, you know? I posted about this and touched on it a little bit on my Instagram, but I was seeing somebody my last few weeks of college, and we dated long distance afterwards. He was my first boyfriend, and he genuinely broke my heart. He broke my spirit. And now I'm like looking back, and I'm so grateful that I'm able to accomplish the ultimate thing that I wanted to accomplish, was working for Gymshark, and I did that without him. I don't need anybody else to validate how I am. I'm learning how to love myself, and I love myself more now than I ever have. And that's the most empowering, inspiring thing about me, is my resilience and my ability to overcome everything. Every adversity I've ever had, I've overcome. I really like the saying that, you know, you've survived the hardest days of your life this far. And I'm living proof that I survived my 10 out of 10. A lot of people don't get their 10 out of 10 at 17, but I did. And now me as a 22-year-old, like, I'm doing it. I'm doing everything I've ever wanted to do. And I moved to Denver from Texas. Like, that's just insane to me. I'm very grateful for every single person that has ever come into my life and ever left my life, those that are still in it, because I think every single person that I've ever met has shaped me in some way for the better, because I've learned so much coming from it. So that's my fitness journey. It's kind of a rambling story. I probably should have written notes, but I didn't. Oops. I just really wanted to share that. I respond to all the DMs that I get, and I've gotten a lot of people that have given me little snippets of their story and have told me they've lost parents, and I'm with you. Like, I'm on your side, and I really appreciate everyone that chooses to support me and follow me. And it's more than you could ever know, because I didn't come from a giant support system. I have select few people that I would call my circle. People come and go from that circle, you know. I thought a specific person from the start of the year with me was gonna be in my circle, and he's not. And I thought certain friends were gonna stay in my circle, and they didn't. And I'm grateful for the chapters that I had, but they're not part of my book. And, you know, I think that's okay, is more people knowing that they can be a part of your book without defining your book. Thanks for watching my super rambly video. It's weird doing YouTube, but I thought I would do it, and I'm happy I'm doing it. And I just want to leave it at that. So thanks for watching. I guess I'll link my Instagram below if you guys want to come, because I feel like I can actually like have conversations with people like in those messages versus like, I'm assuming YouTube. I don't really know how that works, but be sure to follow me on Instagram, I guess. I don't know how this works. How does one end one of these videos? I guess, thanks for watching. I really appreciate everyone that made it this far, because it seems like this is gonna be a long video. That's my story. Bye.